Okay, thank you everyone for coming in. I know there's a lot of events, especially the last Sundance in Park City, so thanks everyone for coming. My name is Marco Cordova from Monarch Private Capital. We're based in Georgia, so I know there's a lot of Georgia folks here. And then also I want to also thank our partners, especially Film USA. Film USA has been a great partner. I think 5 years ago we first met with you and Tony, and we were just thinking of ideas to kind of promote the U.S. filmmaking, so I'm so happy we're doing this. This is actually our third installment of Lights, Camera, America. I also want to introduce Brendan Gallavan from Netflix. And then Ryan Broussard from Wrapbook. They're also partners with us on this event. Houston King, he's a producer with film here at Sundance, Chasing Summer. And did I forget someone? Fred, okay, of course Fred. Fred Siegel from Fred Siegel CPA. He was actually here last year. He was that good, I had to invite him again. But yeah, real quick, I want each person to do kind of a brief intro. Maybe, Katie, can you give us a little bit of insight about what Film USA is doing and kind of like the latest and greatest with you guys?
Sure. It's on. Film Hello? All right. If it goes out, I'm just going to yell at you guys. But Film USA is an association of film commissioners in the U.S., and the real short of it is that we band together because there is no federal film office or federal film presence. Everyone's nodding. Yeah, everyone in this room knows that, but... Is this better? Awesome. So everybody's nodding in this room because you guys know that, but a lot of people don't know that and find it shocking. And it is shocking because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that has major cultural implications and everything else, and we can get into all that. So we band together to work in a cohesive way to make our jobs easier because we all operate in silos in our area. So we share a lot of resources and we market together at places like Sundance and Cannes, et cetera. And then we work to, I'm not going to say we lobby, we educate our legislators so that they can make the right decisions to support our industry going forward.
Thank you. And now Brendan from Netflix. He's been there for about 8 years, and prior to that, he was with Warner Brothers. Brendan?
Yeah, so I'm Brendan Gallavan. I work on our production tax and incentives team at Netflix. What I'm doing, I work on our original film slate. I'm working at the show level with any of our productions that have an incentive or incentives involved, because as a lot of you know, sometimes there's multiple ones in play. But I'm working on the front lines with our production finance teams, with our production management teams, our physical production team, our business and legal affairs team. And when we're locking in on location or locations, I'm kind of the first line of defense to give them the latest and greatest on the incentive happenings in any given territory that we're considering. So once we're locked in and we're crewing up and we've got producers and accounting teams, we'll meet with them and kind of give them the guardrails of how to best operate in a given territory to keep in bounds of the incentive. So, my career at Netflix has kind of progressed. 8 years is kind of dog years in Netflix time, so I'm waiting for my fob not to work any day when I walk into the building at this point. But when I first got there, no, that's a joke. But I think it's a joke.
They're listening.
Who's pinging me right now? When I first got over to Netflix, there was kind of a vacuum of oversight from our team's perspective in the indie series and the unscripted space. So I kind of jumped in and filled that void. But a few years ago, I transitioned over to our original film slate, and I've been working there since. So it's nice to see everyone. Thank you.
Next up, I have Fred Siegel. Fred is also a CPA, so we do a lot of nerdy tax talk, but in between, we also do some fun film stuff, and I've known him for many years. So, Fred?
Hi, I'm Fred Siegel. I have a background that you don't usually do not find with a CPA. Years ago, I was a jazz musician. I became an entrepreneur after that, but I've been doing what I'm doing now since over 35 years. We work almost entirely with indie film producers and the development and production companies and film financiers. We say we specialize in key tax and business issues and dealing with the business of film from development to distribution. And the whole approach is conceptual. We really look at what are you trying to do, can we help, and if so, how? The orientation is collaboration, but I tell people I'm really a jazz musician who got into what I'm doing now, and if we work with you, I'm going to approach the work the exact same way. Last year, I think people wanted to know what we do, and I just boiled it down to telling them we help you find money and keep it. People really like that. They all said, I want to be part of that, so I'm just going to leave it at that and pass it to Ryan.
Next up is my buddy, Ryan Broussard. He's a VP at Wrapbook of sales and also production incentives. Ryan is actually the first person I hired back in 2008 at my former company to head up our Louisiana office. So I'm very proud of him for kind of stepping up and just, he's been there for 3 years. He's the incentives guy there. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to call Ryan.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I hope you're proud, Marco. I do it all for you. It's got to make you look good. I'm VP of Sales and Production Incentives at Wrapbook. I've been here 3 years. I've been in the industry for about 20 at this point, working with a lot of productions, both large and small, from the studios to the smallest of indies, helping and advising them on tax incentives, vetting their budgets, helping them figure out where to go and maximize their money. Also working with people like on this panel, whether it's auditors or studios or whatever it might be, filmmakers, and just trying to help them figure ways to, not leave any money on the table and play matchmaker with accountants, CPAs, whatever it is. At Wrapbook, we are a production payroll company, so we're here to streamline your everyday accounting and finance needs with a one platform, all in-app, technology-driven software and service. So yeah, happy to be here and make Marco proud.
Last but not least, we have Houston King. Very excited to have him here. His feature that he's producing, Chasing Summer, is premiering at Sundance tomorrow, right?
Yes, Monday.
He's also been nominated for some major awards like the Spirit Awards and Gotham Awards. So a lot of commercials on his background. But do you want to give us some background information and maybe tell us more about Chasing Summer?
Yeah, Chasing Summer is coming out. We are premiering on Monday, and it's Josephine Decker directed. Liza Schlesinger wrote it and starred, and they both worked together to make the film. And I see the Missouri Film Office and the St. Louis Film Office, our crew, hello. And hopefully I can talk about how we chose Missouri, because I looked at many states very quickly to figure out what was going to make the most sense for our film.
Yeah, we'll be talking more of the nitty-gritty later. But for those of you here, just wanted to kind of give a quick recap. We're going to talk a little bit about the latest and greatest about different incentives, things that we could improve in the U.S. There's a lot, I'm not naming the problems, but there's a lot of issues with filmmaking and kind of people leaving the U.S. To go to different countries to shoot. So maybe get some insight from you guys, and maybe any recommendations that you might have. So starting with Katie, what do you think as one of the leaders of Film USA, what are you guys doing to help promote more filmmaking in the U.S.?
I think we have two major things missing, and I'm guessing anybody want to shout them out? Yes, and yes, Federal Film Office, federal tax incentive, a countrywide tax incentive. The office would allow us to enter in the ranks of other countries where we could do things like co-production and workforce development at a federal level and strategic market planning for changes that are coming down the pipeline, like long term. I think people ask all the time if that would change the game for the states, and I do think it would change some of what the states are doing. It would not change that states are doing things. There are models. We're not creating this out of nowhere. There are models that are doing this, other countries that are doing this. Canada, Australia, the UK, they have regionals, they have overall countrywide, right? It's not reinventing the wheel. It's putting it in place here. And then the other part, so that's the incentive and the office, right? Those two things that we need. And I think the other part is to be very cognizant that this is a global economy. This is a global industry. We'll be filming everywhere. We want friendships and partnerships everywhere. We want to participate at a competitive level globally. And that is something that U.S. is missing out on. And I think that's what our work really entails.
Thank you. Brendan, you guys pretty much film all over the world. I know last week you were just in Hawaii, I remember. So not on vacation, but you were actually working, kind of. But tough job. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you think can help U.S. get more production, stay in the U.S.?
Yeah, so there's really, when we're determining whether to take something internationally or stay stateside, there's really no kind of one-size-fits-all approach. We do, creative leads the way for us, right? It's always going to be kind of the creative vision for the show. I do think that having a federal credit would help, like a state like California, for instance, that doesn't have ATL eligibility, and it just makes more financial sense to go somewhere else. At the end of the day, we're trying to hit a net number, and we have to face that reality. And to have a federal credit in play would make all the states more competitive from that perspective. And I think that now is a good time to be having that conversation. I think that working with our local film offices and our state-level film offices is a big part of that. So just continuing to educate, continuing to spread the message that there will be ancillary benefits to that, right? Like your local dry cleaners, your hotels. You'll see increases in spend and things like that. So I think that that's kind of a good message to keep banging the drum on.
Great. Fred, being our tax expert here, I know that there's some changes recently, or they didn't pass Section 181, but can you give us a little bit of a few updates? That's the audience.
181. Yes. I can do that in conjunction with Katie because she's all over that as well. So anything I don't say, please add. Section 181, for those who don't know, was a provision of the federal tax law that allowed a movie to take a tax deduction for costs or money they spent in the year they spent it. Normally, that's not the way it works with a movie. You spend money, you basically put it in a wheelbarrow, you carry it along for a few years till the movie's done, and you have to wait until the movie's released until you start to be able to deduct those costs. So when you allow the cost to be deducted right away, that works very well for investors, and that encourages investment in movie production, and that helps create jobs, and that's the whole idea of Section 181, to create jobs by providing financial incentives to investors. That law expired, has expired for films that did not commence principal photography by December 31st, 2025. If you had commenced principal photography, you're fine. You're what's called grandfathered in. If you didn't, you're out of luck for the time being. The law first came into existence October 22nd, 2004. I actually know the date. And it has expired several times since, but it's been renewed each time. Sometimes it's been renewed ahead of time, sometimes it's renewed shortly after, and one time it was renewed a year later, which made everybody wait and really not be able to use it for a year. Right now, there was a piece of legislation introduced last summer. It's called the CREATE Act. It's specifically for Section 181, and as far as I know, it has not moved forward. A couple of weeks ago, I emailed the congressional office in Staten Island, New York. I'm in New York City, so you have to do this through somebody whose district you're in, looking to speak to somebody to find out what was happening with the legislation, and nobody even got back to me. But Katie, you can address some of that because you're dealing with it at the federal level as well.
Yes. So 181 currently does not have a path forward, which sounds very pessimistic and sad, but we have been there before. Like you said, it's been reenacted retroactively. So it can be done. It's finding the right vehicle and the right time this year to do it, and there are a lot of people that work behind the scenes always looking for that opportunity. Chu is the one that did the CREATE Act and is very supportive of the creative industries, and I believe would be a leader. I know there's a lot of conversation going on in the Hill about federal film incentive that would be separate from 181 but continuing both items, and there's more discussion now about it, and we can talk about why, than there ever has been before, which is a positive. But I say this not to be bleak, but more to inspire you that this is not a time in this industry where you can be politically agnostic. We are at a point where we need to be involved, and we have to recognize that government and our industry are going to walk hand in hand, and it's going to be necessary. And that is like you saying you called and said, hey, I want to speak. Our industry has a tendency to kind of work in our circle, in our bubble. And there are groups that do wonderful work outside of that in legislation or whatnot. And I encourage you to get involved in these groups, get involved in knowing what's going on, and reach out to your government, who technically does work for you. So,
That's the idea.
so, but I follow what's going on and get to know it, and figure out how you can get involved and how you can participate in the organizations or directly to your legislation. So,
I just want to add one piece to that, and this is directed at you probably the most because you're the one talking to Congress, which is that in the past, when Section 181 has been renewed, it's been part of a package of expired tax provisions that get into a bill called the Tax Extenders Act. You're trying to extend a provision of the law that's expired, and so you'll have a bunch of expired provisions, for provisions that expired that year, they'll get packaged together. And when you have a situation like that, there's going to be a lot of horse trading going on among the people whose respective constituencies want their expired tax provision to pass. So the CREATE Act came along, and it's solely for Section 181. And it not only extends it, it expands it. It looks great on paper. However, you lose the benefit of having all the people to horse trade with in there. And that's my fear, is that as good as the CREATE Act sounds, if you're going to try to do it on a standalone basis, I don't know how easy it is to get that through, because for the obvious reason, not everybody cares about it everywhere.
no, you're 100% right, and that's part of the discussion on finding the next best time to ask. It's kind of like, you don't ask your parents if you can go out on Saturday night, on Monday night. You wait and you find your right time and your right way. And it's hitting everybody a little late, but yeah, thanks. That was a joke.
Timing is everything.
Timing's everything. So it's finding the best when to ask, who to ask, and how to ask. Do we package this with someone else? Do we walk this independently? How are we going to do it? So I don't have the answer yet. We're working on it. It's a new year, a lot of things happening, as you guys are very aware. So we'll have to jump in when we can.
What about
Section
Section 168?
168 was part of that big Trump tax bill in 2017. And so that one big beautiful act that you heard all about included the extension of 168. So that's there. But the difference is 181 lets you write off the costs in the year that you spend the money, whereas Section 168 makes you wait until the film is released. So that's a big difference.
Yeah, they did also, though, make it so it's 100% bonus depreciation.
Well,
it was going to be 20% if they didn't do that.
No,
so.
it had started at 100 and they phased it.
Down,
And
so.
right, now they just made it 100.
If that was any
And
help.
it's great. It's great for the bigger movies because there's no
There's no
dollar cap on it.
limitation.
Right. So we could talk about that after if you want.
Ryan, Ryan works with a lot of indie filmmakers, so he kind of sees the trends, and a lot of people are asking him, where's the best place to shoot? So he's always getting those calls. What is your take, and what do you see where people are shooting now in the U.S., and if you have any insight of what you expect, down the road?
Yeah. Thankfully right now I am seeing a ton of budgets filming in the United States, so that's amazing to see that people are pushing for that and trying to do that. That's a huge win in our corner. Secondly, I'll say that the state of the United States right now, I've never seen it to where the states themselves, so not outside the federal one, which is the ironic part, but the states themselves have the most aggressive incentives they've ever had in states that have never had incentives, like Wisconsin, Indiana, and Nebraska. They're all dipping their toes in the water. They're all trying it. You have newer states like Missouri, newer West Virginia that have very aggressive programs. So there's a lot of new programs out there. The ones we're seeing the most right now, kind of across my desk, a lot of people ask about Kentucky. Kentucky's getting very, very busy, and they have a very lucrative program. They incentivize residents and non-residents alike. There's a little difference in terms of 5% if you're a resident versus a non-resident. So we see that a lot. Ohio still gets a lot of traction. Illinois just upped their incentive dramatically. I mean, I just never thought I'd be in this day and age in 20 years where California has to incentivize almost upwards of 37%. They have a new diversity bonus. Well, not diversity, it's a pilot program training bonus. They can go up to 37%. New York can go up to 50%. And we're still losing to international. And it's just simply the fact that the cost of filming sometimes in the U.S. for a variety of factors we could all talk about up here is just more costly. So, you know, these states are more aggressive than ever. We're seeing stuff like Kentucky and Illinois. Missouri is very hot. They have tons of bonuses that you can stack to get, you know, almost over 40%.
Also, a lot of local incentives are popping up, like Texas. There's a bunch of Texas people here, I believe, and also Film Savannah increased their incentive also.
Yeah, so Savannah increased it, and then Kansas City and Missouri still around, and Texas I think they have 6 local incentives now or something like that. Even Florida, that doesn't, ironically enough, that doesn't have a state program, has 5 local programs with like North Miami-Dade and Tampa and all this type of stuff. So everybody's kind of getting the look, and everybody's looking at it, but it really is, when Marco says, it's the hardest question I get, where's the best place, the best incentive right now? I don't want to piss off anybody. And there's so many states in here. Careful. Be careful.
Play nice.
So what I do say is it's the best state for you, right? So it's like, are you heavy on above the line? Well, you shouldn't go there. Do you need a pass-through company? Maybe you should go to a company that is more, a state that's more inclined to use that. So it really just kind of depends on the creative, like Brandon was saying, and then also the best state for you in terms of like your budget and where your numbers fall.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of smaller filmmakers here just kind of starting up, and some of these smaller states with incentives, they have awesome incentives. It's just they don't have as much funding. So, you know, I encourage all the newer up-and-coming producers to really look at some of these states that no one's really looked at before, because, you know, it might be a perfect fit for you.
It's a great call out. We get a lot of people that say, well, I can't go for the incentive. I'm doing a $150,000 short. Well, some of these states in Mississippi and New Mexico and Massachusetts, I mean, all you have to spend is $50,000 or $25,000. Or in New Mexico, you don't have to spend, they just have to look at your script. So, you know, don't just be like, oh, well, there's no way I could qualify. It's worth a look for sure.
If you're a newer filmmaker and you're working on low budget projects and you're going to be looking at the tax credits, look at what the minimum spend is. That's the term.
Okay, and in Houston, you know, I got several calls when I was looking around for a producer to be on the panel, and your name popped up several times. One of the reasons being is you took advantage of the kind of like the newer Missouri program. I've also noticed last year, like our company worked on like several Missouri projects. I think the last one before that I worked on was a film, Gone Girl, but that was like 10 or 12 years ago. So there's not, ever since then, you know, it's just Missouri's one of the hopping states.
Yeah, we looked at like 6 states, I ran all the budgets, and then found out that like Missouri was going to be the best for us. And I think that's like the devil's in the details, right? Brandon, what were we talking about earlier? I could get water.
No problem. That's right. Yeah, the devil is in the details, and you know there's different just little quirks to each program, right? That you want to make sure that you're hitting your principal photography requirements, if there's any of those. You want to make sure, you know, if some states have 50% or whatever it is, minimum spend thresholds, as Fred was saying. Just different caveats to the programs that you want to check
right.
out.
How do they treat your residents, non-residents? How do they treat the companies from that state? How do they treat companies from other states? And like a place like Missouri is actually very welcoming and really will work with you to max out the credit there. And beyond that, you need to also understand, like, when am I going to get the credit? When am I going to get the cash? How long does that take? Because Missouri takes a week. At some point, New York or Georgia could take years. It all depends on, like, no offense, it's just they get very popular and they get too many applications. And so it takes them a little while to work it through. But you've got to figure these things out before you plant your flag in the States.
Good call. Brendan, Netflix has been in the news lately, especially last year. I'm not talking about the bidding wars, by the way. I'm talking.
Tell us all about that, will you? We'll have a subject.
You guys opened up a major studio space in New Jersey. I think you guys are planning to spend like close to $1 billion. That's great, for local U.S. filmmaking. Can you give us some more details on kind of what your plans are for New Jersey and what motivated you guys to build that space?
Yeah, sure. So yes, we're building a big facility at Fort Monmouth. I actually got to go out there a few months ago, and really just the scope of it is pretty breathtaking and impressive. It's a big undertaking. As part of that infrastructural investment in the state, we are able to access something called the studio partner status in New Jersey, which affords us some incentive benefits that others may not be able to take advantage of. Like the rates are a bit higher. ATL eligibility is now, there's a few quirks to it, but it's more or less uncapped for ATL eligibility. Things like deferred comp is on the table for eligibility in some of those instances. So yeah, we've been investing heavily in the state, and it's really kind of, we've seen a lot of interest in Jersey since then. I'm on, I don't know, probably 15 titles right now that have either wrapped out in New Jersey in the past year or two, since the upticks came into effect. A lot of shows in prep, a lot of shows in production, and a lot of shows that are just wrapping out. So we're busy in the state.
Okay. Yeah, but for all the other film commissioners, not New Jersey, they're still shooting everywhere else. So
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, we have. I'm on a gajillion projects, so that's just a small percentage of the total films and the series, and unscripted shoots all over the place. That we have a bunch of different content types too, right? So it really is. It depends on what you need for your show. I mean, it's been set up here, right? But you got to do what's really right for your show. And yeah, we're all over the place. We're still in Georgia a lot. We're in New York. We're California. We're all over the place.
And it's when Marco asked me about the trends, there's also the trends of like what filmmakers are doing, but it's also the trends of what the states are doing too. So the fact that you're utilizing that New Jersey partnership program, where I'm seeing more and more states do that too. So, Louisiana is something similar to that. New Mexico, which Netflix has invested in as well, has a partner program that you get certain perks. New York now has like, hey, if you do a slate, you get a certain perk if you do over, I think they say 2 or more projects. So I do think that more and more states are getting more keen to like, hey, the longevity for the economic impact of these shows that come here is multiple programs, right? I mean, it really seems like the thing that everybody wants is episodic television, right? We all want that Walking Dead. We all want that Nashville that was in Tennessee. We all want those episodic scripted shows that, where the actors and the crew all buy houses there. If you can't have that, it can't just be that. For the scripted features, I think the slate and the promise of longevity is really crucial for the state's success.
And I know that you're not focused on the TV shows, but I know you guys are still, especially the projects we work on, are still doing a lot of licensed type shows. So I know you guys are probably in the works of acquiring Warner Brothers, but you still see that continuing as far as working with a lot of licensed shows.
Yeah, I mean, we still have a lot of acquisitions. It's a lot of licensed titles. It's a lot of partner-managed shows where we'll engage a partner to produce a show on our behalf. And honestly, we see a ton of different engagement parameters and different ways of, shooting and building and acquiring content. It really spans the gambit, definitely.
Great. So just in case anyone was thinking they're still going to work with you guys. So.
Yeah. That's correct.
Ryan, going back to you.
But just to jump in there too, sorry. So for the New Jersey aspect of it all, our partner managed stuff and our licensed stuff we could be able to dip into those benefits as well, depending on the deal structures. I mean, it's going to depend on how the deals are cut too, but it's not like those shows would necessarily be cut out from reaping the benefits of it.
I was going to say that New Jersey does have an option to get some of the benefits that Brendan was talking about for the studio partners through another program called the Film Lease. I always get this mixed up. Film Lease Partner Facilities, which refer to a company that effectively builds a movie studio. And if a film production company uses that studio and shoots at least 50% of its days in New Jersey and satisfies a few other requirements, they can also get a 5% bump on the credit. So it's not as robust overall as what Netflix is getting or Lionsgate. Another thing to understand is in New Jersey, the studio partner opportunity is only available for 3 companies. So it's not like open. And I think all 3 have now been taken. So you guys are one. You guys were the first. Also, did you get I think you got an Aspire tax credit in New Jersey too, right? Which just shows what the states are willing to do to bring jobs into the state. In New Jersey, there's something that has nothing to do with the film industry, really. It's called an Aspire tax credit. New Jersey will provide, I think, up to $200 million of financing on basically what you would call infrastructure development or improvements. So, but what I wanted to raise is that for the indie filmmakers, there is a way to get that extra benefit that the bigger players are getting by way of this film lease.
And it's a pretty
program.
lucrative, you know, it's a pretty lucrative bump to that film lease program. Yeah, it's something to check out for sure.
Yes, you can get to, as a matter of fact, there's one aspect of it where you fit those criteria, you can actually get the credit on certain non-New Jersey costs. In order to do that, you have to enter a 3-year lease with the facility. And I spoke to New Jersey just a few days. I spoke to Chris Delvecchio, and I said, "Wow, you guys are giving money on non-New Jersey costs." And he said, "Well, they're entering a 3-year lease." I said, "Okay, I understand. You're creating jobs over a period of time, so you're willing to give away more money." But New Jersey has been very, very aggressive. I don't want to just talk about New Jersey though, because Andrea from Missouri is here. I know her for a long, long time, and Marco had mentioned the Missouri program to me. I looked and saw you were running it basically, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to talk to Andrea, and we're going to find out more about Missouri." So there's a lot of good programs out there, and I encourage, if you're going to look around, get to know the people that run them, because they're going to help you. And
there's a lot of film commissioners here
There's a lot of
too.
help out there. Yeah. So they're good
get,
people, and
is there a show of
they're
hands
gonna
about
help you.
All the film commissioners, raise your hands. These are your people. Talk to these people.
Yeah.
Ryan, we were talking about some of the latest and greatest incentive states. There's some talks now with other types of projects and kind of different ways of generating credits. For example, are any of your clients doing anything with animated projects?
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see more and more, like Oregon. I have a person I consult with there, and they completely utilize the Oregon program, and they do all the stop motion stuff for like Guillermo del Toro and like a ton of huge production houses, and they're completely based in Oregon and take completely advantage of that. We're also seeing it now pop up in other jurisdictions as well that we didn't see. So I think it's great that more and more states are opening their eyes to, like I was saying, outside of just scripted episodic. Like now we're starting to see in their programs they're listing digital content or animation or post only. We're seeing more and more post only stuff. So I think that the states have been, to the credit of the men and women in the audience, have been really evolving to the industry. They just needed that extra layer of help. That
federal help.
Yeah.
And if you haven't used Wrapbook's incentive calculator, it's a really great place to start your analysis of where to go.
I'll give you your check later. Okay, I'll give you your check.
I'll add to that. The work that we do on the audit side of the film tax credits requires us to use payroll reports, and there's a handful of companies. There's a lot of companies that do it. There's a few really big ones. Wrapbook is one of the companies we always recommend. They do a great job. They're very, very affordable as far as I'm concerned for indie filmmakers. And I know Ryan publishes a lot of really useful information online. I read it myself.
And he has also
they're
an
a very
AI.
good company.
the AI website, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I might be training myself out of a job. I've been teaching the AI, the incentive as well. So yeah, we have a whole incentive center that we keep up to date for all the incentives, both local and the state ones, and we keep it very up to date in real time. So feel free to check that out, use the AI, or reach out to me directly to kind of talk out these programs.
You have posts about things other than the incentive.
That's true. Yeah, we
It's
do.
really
We do
I
it.
mean, our practice deals with the business of film, and I think that's what your published posts do.
I love it. Everybody, keep going. I'll go in the audience. You guys can keep talking about Wrapbook. But yeah, no. I mean, look. Part of what I do is I try to do like a value add. You're going to use, hopefully use Wrapbook for payroll, okay. But there's no payroll to be garnished if the movie can't get made. So if I can help any of these filmmakers, it's usually independents, find their financing, figure out who to use for an auditor or for an accountant or whatever it might be, figure out where to film to get the most, once again, bang for their buck. I try to do that. For Houston show, I help him find an accountant and utilize the Missouri incentive. So, I mean, really try to play matchmaker so that, it's show business, right? So you guys are doing so much of the creative side, but the business side is really what we're all, talking about here, and it's very hard to do. And so if I can help do that when utilizing Wrapbook, I'm all for it. My phone's going off, of course.
Yeah, and just be aware there's a lot of requirements, as Brendan and Ryan know, and everyone here knows. There's, one late application will just spell death for your project. So there's, I don't know if you want to share any horror stories, but we're trying to be nice here.
Want horror stories?
No, later.
Fred's about to stand up on a box and tell them all the horror.
But yeah, just be careful with your applications and deadlines. We talked earlier about knowing what your minimum spend requirements are. Especially for all the new people, doing any tax credit related stuff. Talk to someone who has experience, an experienced accountant. One of us, anyone here. Don't be afraid to ask for help, I think.
Yeah, and do your homework. That's the two biggest things. Ask for help with people that have had that experience, and just do your homework. For sure.
And of course, the film commissions,
100%.
a great resource for any of your questions.
Yeah. Start with film commissions.
As we're wrapping up, I just wanted to get your final thoughts and just hear from each one of you what piece of advice you think you would give, not just for the people in this audience, but kind of overall to help, get more incentives and get more filmmaking in the U.S. Let's start with you, Katie.
My advice is very simple and cliche, but it's get involved. You have a right to do that, and you are in my opinion, with great, and as Uncle Ben said, with great power comes great responsibility. You are in the most important aspect of humanity. You are involved in storytelling. You have an obligation and a right to protect it and to work for it. And if this is the industry in which you want to live and work, you are also going to have to encourage the government to work in favor of your industry. So get educated and get involved. Getting educated includes knowing what's happening. There are a number of ways you can do that. Film USA is one of them. Future Film Coalition. There she is. Talk to Jax afterwards. Future Film Coalition does a great job tracking what's going on legislatively. Get educated on what's going on, step one. And then once you know, step two, reach out, get involved, participate. How can I impact this? How can I show you the numbers from my region? How can I show you that I want to live in X state and work, et cetera? So my final piece of advice would to be own this work, own this industry, and make sure the government knows that you own it. And I want to thank you for partnering with us to help spread the word, and for my panelists, and I'm happy to be here.
Brendan?
I don't know if I can follow that. So, I'd encourage, from a producer's point of view, is to not just have your production hat on. Consider things like post. You were touching on this. There are post incentive and VFX incentive opportunities with different programs that you can access as well here stateside. So I would encourage you to look into that. For film commissioners, just be receptive, be available, which I know you are, and you do a great job of that. Have information on your websites, make it clear, make it concise, and just be there to help support filmmakers that are trying to conduct business in your states.
Thank you. Fred?
Following up on the film commissioner part of it, I think it's very helpful for the CPAs at least, and really for anybody getting the credit, if there are channels to ask questions and get answers. I'm used to dealing with tax departments, and there's a whole formal process in place where you can submit a written inquiry basically and get back a written answer that you can rely on and take it to the bank. And not every state has that. There are, and I'm not aware of any states that are in this room that are like this, but I can tell you that we've worked with states where you talk to different people and you get different answers, and if you read the law, the answer you're being given doesn't match the law, and it's just sheer chaos. And, you know, all you can do is try to get your hands on what the state's policy is more often than not. And it's really no way to run a program that's financed by taxpayer money. And I think if so, it's by simply implementing a system where there's a way to ask a question and get an answer. I know it takes, you know, it takes resources. It might not be in your budget, but it certainly helps the administration of the programs, and it removes uncertainty, and that makes it more likely that, you know, for somebody like me to say, go to that state because this is the way it works, and you can count on that. So.
Thank you, Fred. Ryan?
Yeah, I'll double click on just the homework piece and just, you know, not only just with the incentive, I mean, obviously reach out to the film office about that, but also about the resources that they have. I see so many people budget and they're like, oh, well, we've heard this is great, so we're going to budget here. I look at their budget and they're like, I can see in their budget they plan on getting residents for the whole show. And so they're budgeted that way, so they don't have per diem, they don't have housing, and they expect to get that bump for a resident. And they didn't know that there was another big show that was there, or their crew base is only so and so deep, or they don't have this type of facility there for a camera package or whatever it is. So it's just a matter of working with somebody that has that expertise that's maybe worked in that area can be very, very helpful. Or once again, what everybody said up here, reaching out to the film office and having that transparency of like, hey, what else is filming there? They should be able to tell you at least the scope and size of them because, you know, these are it's funded by taxpayer money, and just kind of give you an inkling of what's going on, how much funding's left, and what resources would be there if you came there.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Houston?
I would just say if you're looking at capitalism in America today, you can't point fingers and say like, hey, we're not taking care of the middle class if you don't work a little harder to make the film here in America and take care of your crew and the unions, as much as pain in the ass they may be. Those are the people that help you make these films, and those are the people that need the pension and health, and, you know, work a little harder to try to make it here in America.
Woo! You need to be flying American flags.
Yeah, I remember tried to make his screening on Monday, so good luck with your film.
Thank you.
And just final thoughts. You know, I'm very thankful that all of you guys showed up. One thing that Monarch has been trying to do is just make a positive impact with various communities. We're in 42 states for our renewable energy, historic preservation, and affordable housing projects. Over $40 billion in economic impact and just that. On the film side, we just try to make, you know, get access and let people be informed of what's going on, I think is most important. And just by everyone being here, you know, I think that makes a difference. So I'm just very thankful for you guys here. We're going to have our after party coming up. You know, all of you guys are waiting for that. But we're also going to do some group pictures with the film commissioners, and of course, reach out to any of the local and state film commissioners here. You know, feel free to ask us questions. And of course, thank you to all our panelists again, Katie, Brendan, Fred, Ryan, and Houston. So look for us again when we do another Lights, Camera, Action, or Lights, Camera, America panel. Thank you again.